All right.
So, first question.
Yeah.
You edit out all the awkward stuff, right?
No.
No, dude, I'm silent.
Oh, come on. Here, you adjust yourself if you need to, or however you need to.
Before we start today's show, please visit the sponsors, affiliates, and friends of the Stagecoach.
The Square Reviews, brutally honest product and travel reviews for red-blooded Americans by red-blooded Americans. Visit them at thesquarereviews.com.
TheGunFood.com has an extensive network of partners to connect you with your guns, ammunition, and firearm training. The Gun Food only sells ammo that they trust. Use RSWC as a discount code and save 5.56% on your order at thegunfood.com. PowerTac flashlights have combined premium craftsmanship, American ingenuity, and cutting-edge technology, creating a highly dependable tool that you can trust your life with. Go to powertac.com/RSWC and save 15% on your order. That's powertac.com/RSWC. Sabre Pepper Spray has been making grown men cry since 1975. Find the link in the show description and help get the Stagecoach across America with every Sabre Red purchase you make.
Shotgun with Charlie.
Riding shotgun refers to the practice of sitting next to the driver in a moving vehicle. The term riding shotgun came around after the time of the Stagecoach, when somebody used to sit next to the driver holding a shotgun, in case they ran into bandits. My name is Charlie Cook, and I drive a lot. I like to talk to people while I'm driving, so I interview people in my car while I'm driving. Welcome to Riding Shotgun with Charlie.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we start this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie, I want to say thank you for tuning into the show and for watching the show. If you're listening to the show in podcast form, subscribe to the podcast. If you're watching the show on YouTube, I have noticed that there are more people watching YouTube that are not subscribers, so please subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you enjoy the show, then share it with your friends, because that is how we get the Stagecoach across America. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Today we are coming to you from Voorhees, New Jersey. We are heading down to Pennsville, New Jersey, to the M&M Hunting Preserve, and I have with me none other than the dude, Dick Heller.
Gun dude.
The gun dude. Thank you so much for being on the show, Dick. We are wrapping things up at an event in New Jersey. For the Coalition of New Jersey Firearm Owners and for the Women's for Gun Rights. They had a fundraiser last night, and it was a pretty incredible event, and you were the main speaker that we had.
Actually, the other speakers were gooder than I was.
Gooder than you were. So
yeah,
this...
Latricia from...
Lucretia.
Lucretia, yeah.
Hang on a second.
L-A-C.
We're going to take a call. Gabby Franco.
Hey. Hello.
Hey.
Okay.
All right, we'll see you in a bit.
Okay.
All right, bye.
So you're still rolling. They caught
Still rolling. I'll
the
cut off.
fact that you just talked to another gunner rock star.
Yes. There we are. Send a
Gabby's
message
a
to
rock
John.
star.
Gabby is a rock
Escaped
star.
Venezuela.
Totally.
At a young age. Was bright enough to escape at a young age. Wow. See, that puts her way ahead of the things a lot of us want for the rest of us have done.
Right. Some of us still live in occupied territory, as I call it.
Oh, yeah, yeah. When you go and walk in my house, my wife takes it down whenever she comes home. But it says, Octoon, you are leaving the occupied sector of the District of Columbia. Welcome to Fort Freedom.
Nice.
It's right in my front door.
Oh my gosh. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool.
Occupied territory.
Occupied territory. That's what I call it. I'm from Massachusetts. It's what I call Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, California, Illinois. Anyway.
I'm very short memoried. So when you said Massachusetts, you remind me of the conversation we had a couple of weeks ago where you said, where I was working on some court cases, and you said, I was trying to get a feel of what the changes were, and you said, "Oh my God, they've just produced a 40-pager in
It's-
Massachusetts of new regulations."
The 40-page one is down from 141 pages that they put out.
Slapping self in forehead.
Yeah, the House put out 141 pages. The Mass Senate put out 40 pages.
So
It's all bad.
I flipped through there, and I'm saying, how am I going to list everything in here? First of all, you have to read 40 pages, and that's no fun. So I just decided that I would describe it as 40 pages of new regulations, and everybody would get the message. So then I heard that Hochul has, in light of the White House coming out with the ATF regulations, that Hochul had from New York had written some new gun laws, and I dial into that, and it's 42 pages. So then I go snooping around. I don't want to read another 42 pages of something that's not my court case, right?
Right.
So being on Heller 11, I've gone through quite a few, and the Heller Foundation brand is on about maybe 20 or 30 briefs.
Wow.
To the circuit courts and the Supreme Court. So I go poking around trying to find out, well, what's in the 42 pages of the New York regulations? What do I find? An interview. Governor Hochul, is there any place in New York a person might carry a firearm after the restrictions? Here's what she said. Well, not in a girly voice am I saying this, of course. She said, well, on some street somewhere.
On some street somewhere.
Slap myself in the forehead.
Yeah.
How do they get away with it?
I have no idea. No idea.
Well, here in New Jersey, they have a Weinstein or a Weinberg lady.
Loretta Weinberg, yes.
Loretta Weinberg in Congress for 28 years. And she said everything, oh man, I couldn't believe this. So I had Eric Saperstein say it to me a couple of times. Everything that we do is constitutional. Read whimsical until a court says no.
Mm.
And that's what costs us $1 million every time we want to claw back one of our lost Second Amendment rights.
Yeah, it's completely ridiculous. They're really as we're in New Jersey, Anthony Calandra from the Gun for Hire range and Gun for Hire podcast says there's three classes of people. There's them, there's the illegals, and then there's us. We're at the bottom of the totem pole.
Yeah. Excuse me, I need a cough drop.
Oh no, go right ahead. This I'll cut out.
Oh no, this is the good part.
Right, this the
I'm
TV
just a
that you don't
normal
see.
dude.
Just a normal dude that needs some Ricola. So let's go back to the Heller case. So the whole Heller case started in the 1970s, right? Like there was the
When you're talking about the Heller case, you're talking about that case that produced that magnificent Supreme Court, magnificent Justice Antonin Scalia, magnificent Second Amendment gun decision, right?
yes, that is the one.
Did I mention
It is the magnificent Anton Scalia Supreme Court decision.
Absolutely. I don't call it the Heller decision much.
All right. Well, everyone else does. This started in the 1970s. So you were a security guard?
No, I was an IT jock.
An IT jock. Okay.
And if I stayed with it, I wouldn't be here today. I'd be making a couple $100,000 a year because I was in at the beginning. But it advanced too fast for my slow brain. I tell people, I almost wear it as a badge of honor so that other people understand what power they have. I just say, I'm the dim bulb in the chandelier of all the cases. We're up at the Heller 10 or 11 now. And I'm the dim bulb. I just come up with an idea and give it to the geniuses. And so what that says is everybody out there can do a little bit of something. I just did a little bit. I just got angry. I said, they can't take my gun. Ain't doing it.
Right.
And then you build yourself a network, and in Washington, that's pretty darn easy. So I went to the Democrats, I went to the Republicans, I went to the Independents, and over a course of about 30 years, not knowing what to do, I built a network of people, and all of a sudden, boy, when it happened, it popped fast.
Wow.
But that's because of the network of
Right.
brainy people. I'm
Sure.
just the dim bulb.
Oh, please. You're the one that had the idea for all this.
It starts with an idea, certainly, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we linked up with the Cato, and I mean, if I tell you the whole story, you'll say, "Oh my God, there is a gun guy." Yeah, it's the things that happen they're just not. It's not possible to be random accumulation of events.
Mm-hmm.
So in the 3 or 4 sentence version,
I forgot to have you put that on. I'm sorry.
in the 3 or 4 sentence version, is that a good location right there?
I think it'll be fine. Yeah.
3 or 4 sentence version. I was single, and I had a big house on Capitol Hill behind the Supreme Court, and I met a guy that was an international pilot and a fighter pilot, and he was an instructor, a fighter pilot instructor, but he also studied law. And after I met him, he was out of the Vietnam War. He was a practicing physician. And when he came to my place, he came with a trunk full of guns, which were totally illegal.
Right.
And he was on the Olympic shooting team in 1980. So the process started somewhere, just
Somewhere
for
around
reference, somewhere before 1980.
Right.
Well, in fact, it was 1976. I'd been out of the paratroopers for 4 or 5, 6 years. And I said, "Hey, Matt Dillon, Gunsmoke. I need one of those guns."
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first gun purchase. In July of 1976, interestingly, maybe 200 years, pretty close to the day after July the 4th, 1776. So I'm starting to get the message here. Something's going on, right? Exactly 200 years later.
Right.
So he comes in as a doctor, so he's a smart guy, and a pilot with his trunk full of guns from the Olympic shooting team that did not go to Russia because of our conflicts, Cold War. And when I told him that we were all going to prison because he had a trunk of guns in Washington, D.C., he got him out of town the next morning.
Good call.
And he said he couldn't believe it. He sat down on the couch, put his head in his hands, and said, "I can't believe this." And his key phrase, which I hadn't accomplished much up to that time, but it sort of put it in perspective for me. He said, "I'm living in the freest country in the world. I have my guns because we have a Constitution, we have a Second Amendment, and I'm living in the capital of the country that has the Constitution with the Second Amendment, and I can't have my guns." So he said, "I'm going to go to law school." Well, he'd already been studying law on his own. It was called Reader at Law. And the guy is a genius anyway, so he says, "I'm going to go to law school," and I said, "and I'm going to become a cop. They'll give me a gun to protect them, but I can't have a gun to protect me." Somewhere there's a disconnect, and I realized that's the point when I realized that we live in a 2-tiered society, not unlike the old Soviet Union.
Right.
So we got him, I managed some things I had done before. We got him into law school at Georgetown University Law School. That's a story by itself. And when he came out fighting, what I get a kick out of, when it was time to graduate after 3 years of law school, I said, when's your ceremony? He says, "I'm not going back for the ceremony. I just wanted to learn how to architect a case against the city."
Oh, wow.
So he had absolutely no interest in going to graduation ceremony. Didn't even pick up his diploma.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, they probably mailed it to him, but
Right.
he never showed it to me. But anyway, so he worked as an airport manager while he was working his way through Georgetown University. law school, and I had gone through the phone book. Now, for the people in the future, before we had cell phones, we had something called the phone book. Okay, it was this thick. Can you see this? It was in Washington. It was 2 inches thick and had a yellow pages, and all the think tanks were listed on one page. So in my first 20 years, I just went down the list, called them up and said, what do you do? And when do you have weekly or monthly meetings? And I attended a number of them. And ran across Heritage Foundation, of course, of the Cato Institute. And in the final cut, we ended up working with Cato because they were producing a case, had 5 plaintiffs, and they were still looking for another one. And I was clean jean cop, never arrested, no traffic tickets within the last 7 or 8 years. So I passed through their screening process rather quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest is pretty much well documented.
Yeah.
But that's, what's Paul Harvey say?
That's the rest of the story.
The rest of the story.
Yep.
That's the start of the story. And I just tell people that, what did I know? I just drank beer, drove fast cars, chased beautiful women, or fast women and beautiful cars. It was 50 years ago, so I don't remember which.
Mm-hmm. Right. Oh my gosh. So since then, I know this is a little nuts. I remember where I was when I heard about the Heller decision.
Really, how old were you?
Oh, 2008. I was 38.
Oh, really?
I was 38.
Still a youngster. Still at 38.
It's just a look.
You've done good.
I remember I've tried finding this picture on my social media, but I went to I was at the shooting range with my kids. My kids were 8 and 6.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, and we were
Awesome.
at the shooting range, and I remember taking a picture of me with my son and my daughter, and saying, "The Heller decision went through today. It ruled in the favor of freedom, and this is how the Cooks celebrate." And it's a picture of my son and my daughter, each holding a rifle.
Cool.
And
cool.
and I have no idea what happened to this picture, but I do remember putting it out.
Well, don't look for it while you're driving, sir.
I'm not. I'm texting the people we're supposed to be meeting, and
You have to leave to be able to shoot tomorrow.
oh, absolutely.
You have to live.
We have to live
in order
to be
to
able
shoot tomorrow.
So, yeah, this is a groundbreaking thing. You have to find attorneys. You have to find funding for all of this. You said last night that it cost $1.2 million to be able to keep your single action revolver.
And I know that number because I had to sign the paper approving it for the court. Because after the lawyers prevail in the decision, then they have to have another court case to get paid. Can you believe that?
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
There was I think it was 12 pages. Alan Gore and I were sitting at Starbucks on Capitol Hill. He says, "Rich, I need you to sign this." I said, "What the hell's this?" And he told me, and I'm going through it and said, "Alan, this is 12 pages. So anyway.
Just to get paid. Unbelievable.
Just to get paid. But you figure for 1.2 mil, there probably ought to be a snot trail on paper somewhere, right?
Right. So besides Alan Gore, who were the other attorneys that were involved?
Sorry?
Who were the other attorneys that were involved besides Alan Gore?
There was, I like to tell the story about Clark Neely. The city has unlimited, I'm making noise here. The city has unlimited funding in the form of our tax dollars.
In our tax dollars, absolutely.
Did I say daughters? Tax dollars with which to hurt us with our own money. And so they had hired, what I heard was, since I didn't know much back then, they had hired the 6 most famous attorney companies in America relating to Second Amendment that they could find. Unlimited budget, right?
Right.
And here we have Bob Levy of the Cato Institute, And he's hired this young, handsome lawyer from California, Alan Gura.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about him. Years later, I found out that he spent 6 years as a California assistant district attorney. So all of a sudden, 5 years later, I realized that guy's really smart to have been a prosecuting or district attorney for that long.
Right.
So then there was Clark Neely from another institute. No, he was from Cato also, second chair. And when the story I heard was when the opposing counsel, the city attorneys, found out it was Clark Neely, one of them was supposed to have said, "Oh my God, we're up against the alligator." I love
That's
it.
a good sign. I used to listen to, somebody, I can't remember who it was, but they said, you need to hire an attorney. You need to hire an attorney that's such a bad person that you don't even like them.
Oh, well, even though Dane von Breikenrickhardt, which is the guy that I put through Georgetown Law School, was now an attorney, and he was on Ed Meese's Heritage Foundation Star Chamber as the constitutional attorney while he was still in law school. Everybody else was policy attorneys, and he was the constitutional attorney in law school. So he used to say, he says, I was the architect, I'm a lawyer, the Bill of Rights Foundation, we hate lawyers.
Oh my gosh.
Always got a kick out of that.
That's great.
So,
That's great. How long did what was the process you had to go through to get to the Supreme Court? Like, you don't just go to the Supreme Court.
you don't wimp your way to the Supreme Court. You do not wimp your way through law school. You do not wimp your way to becoming a pilot, a fighter pilot or an airline pilot. It takes work.
Yeah.
And what you have is the 1% of the 1% of the 1% kind of thing, right?
Right.
Yeah, how many people are registered bar members of the Supreme Court?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if I walk in there today, I just walk in as a tourist, right?
Yeah.
So who are you? Oh, well, no, so what? You get in line. You're just
Right.
a tourist.
So it's got to take some time. You've got to go through, a regular case has got to go through the local court, and then it goes to the state court, the district court, and then the Supreme
Dane
Court.
and I met up in 1993 or 4, and that's when we had that discussion of, you got to get your guns out of town or we're going to prison.
Mm-hmm.
And the blood drained out of my face, I know, because I could feel it. And then when it finally hit him that he could not be a gun owner with a trunk of guns in D.C., the blood drained out of his face, and he just put his head in his hands, sat on the couch, and almost cried. So that was the start. And then he decided he's going to go to law school, and I had to work with him to figure out how we're going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
He was my tenant at the time because I was single, had a big house. So it was 3 years to get through law school.
Oh my gosh.
So that's a struggle. So in the meantime, I've left the IT world. I'm working at Safeway and some other job, I forgot what it was, to make ends meet. And finally, he worked a couple of years with the Heritage Foundation, with the Ed Meese group of 40 people. And this was actually before we had much of an internet. I mean, in the 90s, the internet was just starting.
Right.
And so Ed Meese took him on and presented him to the Star Chamber of 40 other attorneys there. And he sort of told Dane's background and story. And Dane told me later, he says, good God, Ed Meese knows more about my history than I remember about my history.
Oh
And
my
that was
gosh.
before the internet.
Jeez.
So now nothing is lost, Your
Sure.
birthday party, if it was filmed, it's on the internet.
It's out there somewhere. So what happens, like, when you get up to the Supreme Court, you get to go in, like, they're...
Oh, wait a minute. We need a lot more before we get there. Okay, so first is the case, because it is a constitutional issue at law, it's not criminal, it's not civil, it is heard in a federal court because it's a law constitutional issue.
Yeah.
So we go to that level, and let's see, obviously, since those are attorneys that live in Washington, their job is to defend the government because the government is their paycheck. The city won on that decision.
Yeah.
So the team then appeals to the circuit court, the DC Circuit Court, which is basically the 13th Circuit Court. They just call it the DC Circuit because it handles all federal cases for the federal government and DC. And that's probably a mouthful, isn't it? So we have 3 Republican judges there. So obviously we prevailed, and there are some fascinating stories that I don't mind sharing with you, Charlie.
Thank you.
Todd Kim will live in infamy because of my story and what happened. So Dane and I are in the appellate court, sitting on the front bench, and we're falling asleep because they're bandying about Todd Kim, the DC prosecutor or district attorney, assistant DA, is presenting his case, and the judges are asking questions. And Judge, I think his name is Arthur. His last name is Ginsburg, same as the Supreme
Ruth
Court.
Bader.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg name, same last name. And he says, Mr. Kim, why is it that you are so against the Second Amendment, which is in our Constitution, which you're supposed to uphold? And Todd Kim, just how much of my hand motion is on camera?
We'll get all of it.
All of it?
Yeah.
So what, from here up?
About that.
Okay. So Todd Kim, I might be exaggerating a little bit because we were asleep, I'm sure, at the time. But you could see his hand motion his attitude was something like my hand motions. Well, Your Honors, the city, we just don't want guns in Washington, D.C. And this is when Ginsburg slams his hands down on his desk, jumps up, and when he slammed his hands down, Dane and I both woke up from whatever slumber we were in, right?
Right.
And we're going, hey, what's going on? He jumps up. His neck is turkey red. I know he is so mad it looks like there is smoke coming out of his ears and a cloud of steam over his scalp. He is so enraged. And he yells at the top of his voice, leaning over the bench, "What planet do you live on? Don't you read your own Washington Post newspaper about all the guns and murders every day?" And oh my God, Dane and I are hitting each other in the ribs with our elbows, right?
Yeah.
Hey, something's going on. I think we're winning a couple of points.
Oh my gosh.
And Alan Gura describes it as the most pregnant pause in appellate court history.
Yeah.
Because Todd Kim didn't know what to do. First of all, you have 3 justices up there that did not wimp their way to the bench, right?
Right.
They have superior knowledge, obviously, to challenge him, and so aggressively. And I'm sitting behind Todd Kim, and I'm watching him. He's got his notes, and he's just shuffling from foot to foot and just flipping pages randomly in his notebook and then flips them back the other way. He had no answer. He didn't know how to respond.
Oh my gosh.
Most pregnant pause in appellate court history.
That's
so
crazy.
Finally, I have no idea how to say, well, you're on. Okay. So the grilling goes on. And then there was another, the other judge I've forgotten his name at the moment. He didn't want to be left out of the slamming party, right?
Right.
So he asked a question, and I remember what it was. He said, Mr. Kim, why is it that the right of the people, you feel that the city can infringe on that? And he gave some answer, and so this second judge jumps up and says, and almost as loud as he could, he says, what are you trying to tell us? That the people in the Second Amendment doesn't mean the same thing it is in the First and the Fourth, and he lists the rest
Well,
of
the rest of them, yeah.
I'm going, digging Dane in the ribs. Hey, dude, we're on a roll. Very quietly, of course, because the only noise is the judges. But hey, we're on a roll. We're winning something. So then that was a 2-1 decision, and the third judge, Judge Henderson, a female, even though she was a Republican appointee, her dissent was because D.C. was not a state, and that the Constitution
Didn't apply.
I'm thinking out loud that maybe I'm hearing the definition of rhino, right? The Constitution doesn't treat district like it does the other states, as in, oh, the Constitution doesn't apply here.
Right.
That would be a typical rhino sign, but I don't want to be unkind. That was just her decision. So it was 2-1, and the city says, we're not going to stand for this. We're King Kongs of government, and we're going to appeal the Supreme Court. And what happened is, it was significant a couple of cases later, because in the arrogance of government, they thought they would have the High Court voting on their side of the law and ignore the Constitution. Well, obviously, anyone that would be that stupid, I say with emphasis, or arrogance with that emphasis, doesn't understand the Constitution, do they?
No.
It's unbelievable. So when it went to the High Court, I actually thought Ruth Bader Ginsburg was going to be on our side, because at some point I had tracked her down in an article like 10 years before, where she said, I always thought that firearms were meant for something other than hunting. I think that was her word, hunting.
Really?
Yes, she
From
said
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
From Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Wow.
But keep in mind, she was bosom buddies with Justice Scalia.
Yeah.
So I'm sure he had enlightened her somewhat, right, in their discussions at the opera. But when it came down, push comes to shove, she kind of violated her oath to the Constitution. So it gave us a 5-4 decision. And the city couldn't believe it. So we go out on the front steps. It's a beautiful day. We go out on the front steps, and the 50 cameras are there, and the NRA says something. It's a great day for America. And I was the dim bulb, so I said, "Oh, thank you," or something,
Right.
And then we go down onto the street where the mayor and his entourage of armed 7-foot or 6'5" security team are standing, and Mayor Fenty says, well, you might have your guns, but we have control. And I didn't know anything. I said, what in the world does that mean? What just happened? That was my prayer. What the hell just happened, to be more exact?
No kidding.
What the hell just happened? So they obviously, with all that free taxpayer money to nullify our constitutional rights, they had a plan B. They're so arrogant, I can't even believe they would consider that they needed a plan B.
No kidding.
But they had a plan B. So plan B was, the city came up with 16 different ways they could encumber our ownership, possession, registration, or usage of firearms. 16 elements.
Unbelievable.
So the decision, that magnificent Scalia decision, was on the 26th of June in 2008, and approximately the 15th of July, we're talking a mere 6 weeks later, we're back in court with Heller 2, which has 16 elements in it.
Mm-hmm.
I think lawyers don't use that word elements. They say 16 items. I call it elements.
Right.
Us street folks, we know what we're talking about. So that went back and forth. Request for discovery, request for history, responses. I mean, that took, I think that took, when did Sandy Hook watch this?
Sandy Hook was 2012.
Yeah, December the 14th, 2012. So between 2008 and 2012, about 2012, that was almost another, you were asking about timing, that was almost another 4 years,
Mm-hmm.
okay, of lawyers issuing their demands for discovery and papers, I just call it papers, back and forth for nearly 4 years, at least 3 years. And finally, it got to be, with 16 issues, they finally had to split it up into 2 different cases, 8 in one and 8 in another.
Mm-hmm.
And Heller 2 had the AR-15 issue in it. And so we had just had a decision on, we won 8 of those issues and lost 8 of those issues. And just when we were preparing, we'd gotten the decisions and we were preparing to respond. And on December the 14th of 2012, that's when Sandy Hook happened. Now, everybody, America mourned. I went and had a cry in front of the guy, talked to the guy in the mirror, saying, what's going on here? What was your culpability?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when sometimes you just have to pull up your big boy pants and understand who you are and what you're doing. So what I realized was we were absolutely zero part of the cause of Sandy Hook. What we had done is given everyone in America, this was I think McDonald was filed in 2012, maybe.
I think it was 2010.
2010. Oh, their decision came in. I can't remember. I thought it was 2012. 2010. Anyway, it escapes me at the moment where McDonald, Laura and Otis McDonald's court case fit in there. It must have been before.
I thought the decision went through in 2010.
Okay, that would be good perspective, because then Sandy Hook happened 2 years
2 years
later.
after.
I was able to say to the guy in the mirror that we were not part of the cause. We were upholding the constitutional issues, and although the Sandy Hook parents and school administration had no reason to think they might need to defend their institution with firearms, they made a financial decision to not hire police if they did or did not need them, but it gave them the opportunity to do so if they chose to. That was really a moment of growth for me, because everyone makes their own decisions.
Right.
So they had no reason to think they needed them, but they still made a financial decision to have no guns in school, even before, I don't know if my message is getting out, even before people realized there was a need. I think that's when they finally came to understand there is a need.
Yeah.
That was where it started. Columbine was sort of a one-off, right? A couple of freaky kids. Now, Sandy Hook showed that there could be a pattern. If it comes to number 3, mass shooting, then there's an event. It's a new phenomenon, cultural phenomenon. But I had to work through that, because I tell you, it's hard to hold back tears now, because it was such you don't just kill 20 kids, right?
Yeah.
It's like an Israel school slaughter. But they solved that problem. They just armed the teachers,
Armed the
and
teachers.
the school attack stopped. My. Funny how that
Shocking.
works.
Shocking how that
Shocking.
works. Yes.
Shocking. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
We forgot to talk about my hats. That was going to be my intro.
We got 9 minutes. Let's talk about your hats.
Okay. Which one am I wearing? Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm a life member of the NRA, as are so many people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also a life member of Gun Owners of America. But the reason I work with GOA is because one item, one element. We call ourselves the No Compromise Gun Guys.
Mm-hmm.
We're the other gun guys. No compromise. So for my own logo, I came up with, of course, gun guys are Trumpers. So I came up with my offshoot of Trump's hat. Make America free again.
Nice.
And what's interesting is I wear this hat quite a bit. It's my logo hat. Surprisingly, I've never been challenged because I'm wearing it. And maybe, just maybe, it's because people that want to punch me in the nose might be thinking, oh, that's one of those gun guys. He might be wearing a gun.
He might have a gun on him, right?
bother him.
I talked to somebody that said, listen, if the anti-gun folks really thought that we're as crazy as they think that we are, then why do they want to argue with us? Why do they want to make us mad? Right?
That's a good soundbite. Why would you want to make a gun carrier, a gun toter mad?
Yes.
Right.
If you think they're gonna shoot people willy-nilly, then why do you want to make them mad?
And they don't understand. You walk out of a gun show with maybe 50, 60,000 guns there. If guns kill people, how did I get out alive?
Absolutely.
That's one of my favorite sound bites.
I did hear somebody say that. I think it was Ted Nugent. He said, if guns kill people, then all mine are broken.
Yeah.
Which is a good one. All right, tell us about the third
All
one.
mine are failures.
So let me ask you this: do you have those hats for sale?
Not yet. I'm working with a group of guys that would like to commercialize it.
That's a great idea.
But that's over my head. They're working on that. We'll come up with it in a couple of months, maybe. My website is probably the most under maintained websites in the gun world.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wearing this tan hat now because I'm up here with Charlie at the invitation of the consolidated
Coalition of New Jersey
Coalition
Firearms.
of New Jersey Firearms Owners.
The
I've probably been up
CNJFO.
here working with these folks. I just call them the Joyzy FOs. And I've been up here probably with the Joyzy FOs more than any other particular group.
You came up last year and did some black powder shooting with them.
I came up last year, and I've had black powder guns for maybe 20 years and didn't know what to do with them. And I'm such a safety nut. Man, can you imagine me on my own trying to play with a black powder gun and hurting myself? How stupid that would make me look.
Totally.
So I had two, I guess they're like Navy Colts from the 1860s for 20, maybe 30 years, maybe about 20 years. And I wasn't going to touch them, so I came up and a guy in the club called Rosie.
David Rosenthal. Episode 49 of Writing Shotgun with Charlie, I believe.
Oh, did you?
I had Rosie on the show a long time ago.
Oh, you didn't film that? You weren't there at the...
No, I wasn't there.
Yeah. So I learned how to handle them safely, and I got to fire a number of them, a musket and one with a rifle barrel and a pistol or two.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting where as a firearms instructor, I don't flinch when I'm shooting. I couldn't figure out why it was shooting guns that have less recoil. I flinched on the trigger a number of times. I would jerk the trigger, but I wouldn't get all the. I would only half pull it, and I couldn't figure out why I would flinch. It was one of those mysteries,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
that you don't understand about yourself. I said, this is a softer gun
Right.
than
What's the
anything.
issue?
What is my problem? So there you have it.
Wild.
We're all human, right?
We are. All right. We've only got a couple minutes until we get to the M&M Hunting Preserve, where we're going to spend the morning, do some sporting clays with some friends. How can people find you and all of your social media?
If you go to hellerfoundation.org or hellerfoundation.com, either one,
Mm-hmm.
down at the bottom, there is a connection box where you can send us an email. And us, I mean me, I'm an army of one at the moment. So
I hear that.
I've
all too
gone
well.
all these years. My challenge is my phone doesn't ring enough because we've had the Wuhan death plague. I had to burrow into my cave to stay away from the world since I'm a senior citizen age.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife has medical issues. If I catch the cold, she gets the flu. So I dare not do anything to put her at risk.
Sure.
So I've been underground for years. And now I'm up here in New Jersey. I'm supposed to speak at Hillsdale College sometime this month.
Wow.
And Citadel College down in South Carolina.
Mhm.
Looking forward to that.
Cool.
And I'll get to give the same speech I gave last night at the Coalition of New Jersey Firearms Owners, but I'll have more than 12 minutes to do it.
So, Dick, I was keeping time. It was 26 minutes.
No kidding. Oh my
Yes.
God. Really?
26 minutes and 17 seconds.
Oh my.
Not that I'm counting, but I did keep track because I'm like, we got to keep things moving along here.
Yes.
All right. Well, we're going to put some links to all of your social media below. If you are not a member of the Second Amendment Foundation, you can join them at saf.org. There's going to be a link below. If you've made it this far, you need to share the show with your friends because this is how we get the Stagecoach across America. You can check out all of your favorite pro-freedom podcasts at sdrn.us. That's the Self-Defense Radio Network. And we shall see you guys next time.
And one addition, the Wells Fargo Bank is the only pro-gun bank in America.
All right. Good to know. We'll see ya.
Peace out.